My name is Maya Brooks. And right now, I'm hearing someone whisper in Korean through my headset, "Don't send the police, only an ambulance. Otherwise I'll die, and others will die too." We get plenty of strange calls in the 911 dispatch room, but this voice sounds like the person is holding back blood with their teeth. An uncertain address blinks on my monitor in downtown Chicago, and an old instinct inside me snaps awake. This isn't a normal fight. This is war. I don't speak Korean because it's trendy. I speak it because I was raised by a street where an Ajuma neighbor taught me how to curse correctly, and a church choir taught me how to soften my pronunciation. I know the difference between Seoul politeness and Busan bluntness, and in the caller's voice I hear Busan exactly. Sharp, rough-edged, real. He's trying to control his breathing like a soldier running with a wound. And when I ask his name, he doesn't answer with a name. He answers with an order. Ambulance, now, 2 minutes, side entrance. If the police show up, I'll cut the power and you'll hear people dropping. I'm supposed to follow protocol. Stay on the line, give an address, don't make threats. But my body makes the decision faster than my brain. Because behind his words I hear short commands, the metallic howl of elevator doors, and a sound you never confuse with anything else. A dull gunshot, distant, but indoors. I do the thing people usually get fired for. I send the ambulance using the building's technical location tag, something only dispatchers can see, and I deliberately delay the patrol call by labeling it follow-up check. On the security camera feed, I catch silhouettes moving, though I'm not supposed to see them. The voice returns in my ear, quieter. Do you understand me? It doesn't sound like a question. It sounds like a test. I answer in Korean. I understand. Breathe. Count your breaths. A pause hangs on the line, as if the world stops for 1 second. When the ambulance confirms arrival, the call cuts off. I sit under the flickering lights of the dispatch room, where it smells like coffee and plastic, and I feel a heavy stone settle in my stomach. I just stepped into someone else's fight. A fight that doesn't smell like a fight, but like a criminal code. Around here they say, don't be a hero, be alive. But somehow I already know I won't be able to pretend this was just another shift, because that voice was too familiar for a stranger. The next evening, someone is waiting for me outside the 911 building. Not police, not a coworker with a joke. Just a black SUV that swallows street noise with its silence, and 2 men in plain dark jackets with no logos. They don't smile, and they don't threaten. They move like they were trained to waste nothing. One says my last name without a mistake. Miss Brooks. Get in. This isn't a request. Chicago's cold air cuts my face, and I realize my later has arrived. I could scream. I could run back inside. But there's a security guard at the entrance who suddenly looks away like he can't see me. That's worse than a gun, because it means everything is agreed upon. I lift my chin and say, "If you touch me, 911 will know." The man answers calmly, "They'll know, and they'll forget. We don't want to touch you. We want to talk." And then I hear the second man say in Korean, "She's the one." Something inside me clicks shut like a lock. The car smells like leather, mint, and other people's decisions. They don't hit me and they don't tie me up, but it changes nothing. Freedom is when you can leave. I try to memorize turns, count traffic lights, listen to tires hiss on wet asphalt. My mother's rule surfaces in my head. If someone drives you somewhere, collect facts, not emotions. Emotions later. But emotions are already sticking to my throat because suddenly I'm not scared for myself. I'm scared I've truly gotten stuck in someone else's bigger story. The elevator climbs too high. My ears pop like on a plane, and I almost laugh at the absurdity. A normal 911 dispatcher being taken to the top floors like it's a movie. The doors open to a hallway where silence costs money. At the far end are double doors of dark wood. One of the men knocks twice, like a password. And before I can build a plan, the doors swing open and I see wall-to-wall windows. Chicago glows beneath us like someone spilled glass over black fabric. He's standing by the window with his back to me, tall, in a white shirt. One hand on the sill like he's holding the city in place. On his neck, a thin line of tattoo. Quiet, but threatening in how calm it is. When he turns, I feel a gaze that doesn't just look, it measures. There's no chaos in his eyes, only control and exhaustion. Maya Brooks, he says in perfect English, then adds in Korean with a Busan edge, "You saved my life." His name is Kang Joon-su. I don't learn it from the news. I learn it from how the guards tense at the sound of it. He steps closer and sits in a chair opposite me, neither inviting me nor forcing me. On the table is a tablet with my profile, as if my whole life fits into 2 lines. Anger rises in me. I'm not an object. He notices and says, "If you were an object, you wouldn't be standing here. I brought you because you're a risk, and because you understand a language that shouldn't have been heard through your microphone." I say, "I was just doing my job." He gives a small smile with no warmth. "No. You broke protocol, Maya. You delayed the police. You sent the ambulance using a restricted building tag. That means you chose a side, even if you didn't know whose." The room thickens with silence. I realize he's already dug up everything he can. "Why do you speak Korean?" he asks. And for some reason that sounds scarier than, "Why did you interfere?" I could lie and say I studied it in college, but I don't have the kind of face that lies beautifully. I tell the truth that's safer than the full truth. A neighbor taught me, and my work. In my neighborhood, half the people are Korean one way or another. He nods, but doesn't believe me. "No. You didn't speak like a student. You spoke like someone who was made to repeat words as a child until they became hers." His fingers tap the armrest like a metronome. "And I want to know who gave you that language." I say, "It's not a crime to know a language." He answers, "In my world, everything can be a weapon, language especially." He signals the guards to leave. The doors close, and we're alone. In this kind of silence, I can hear my own heartbeat. "You're not a hostage," he says, and it sounds like a lie wrapped in pretty paper. "You're a guest under my protection, until I figure out why you were on the line that night." "Protection?" I almost laugh. That sounds like locked up. He doesn't argue. "The difference is that enemies usually lock you up. I haven't decided what you are yet." There's no performance in his voice, only cold honesty. Then, almost calmly, he adds, "You got too close to my inner conflict. If my enemies decide you're my weak point, they'll come for you. And if they come, I'll lose control. I don't allow that." They give me a room that looks like a hotel suite for people who don't have the word budget. White sheets, heavy curtains, a stone bathroom I've only seen in fancy lobbies. On the nightstand lies an ankle tracker bracelet. Not on my leg, like an invitation. I understand the message. No chains needed if you agree on your own. Anger rises in my chest, but beside it is a strange, almost indecent feeling. The safety here is real, and that scares me more than threats. I try to sleep, but the city behind the windows is too loud, and my thoughts are louder. I remember his voice on the line, "Don't send the police." Back then, it was about survival. Now it's about power. I walk around the room, touching furniture like I'm checking reality. Then I hear footsteps in the hall and automatically count. 2 people, light shoes, synchronized. Guards. And suddenly, I understand something ugly. In a Mafia boss's penthouse, I feel safer than on my own street. That's not romance. That's a diagnosis of the city. In the morning, they bring me coffee and a phone for internal calls only. The screen shows one contact. Marcus. Marcus is his right hand, someone whose face looks like it grew up too early. He speaks politely but with distance. Rules are simple. Don't go anywhere without an escort. Don't touch the safes. Don't ask the guys unnecessary questions. I ask, so what questions are allowed? He looks like he forgot how to smile years ago. Food. Blankets. How you want to die. Don't ask that. Joon-su shows up closer to evening. Dark shirt. His arm wrapped like it isn't the first time. He doesn't play the good host. He just says, "Tell me about the night of the call." I tell him where I was, what I heard, what he said, and I notice it. When I repeat his Korean phrase, his jaw tightens. That language isn't just native, it's memory. And according to his eyes, the memory hurts. Who taught you to speak like that? He asks again, like it's the only thing keeping him upright. I snap. And who taught you to give orders like the world is your room? He looks straight at me, and I think he'll explode. But instead, his voice drops unexpectedly quiet. My family taught me. Family teaches you a lot, and not always things you're proud of later. The answer throws me off. It sounds almost human. But I don't let myself relax, because in Joon-su's world, human can be a trap. The next days fall into a strange rhythm. By day, I walk freely through the penthouse, read books on shelves, wonder what a view like this costs. At night, I hear him in his office speaking Korean in short phrases that leave metal in the air. Sometimes he calls me, "Translate," and I understand. He's testing me, watching how I react to threats, to surnames, to hidden meanings. He's hunting for proof I'm connected to his enemies. But I start hunting too. Who he really is beyond beautiful danger. One night I step out for water and find him at the panoramic window. He stands like he's carrying not a suit, but his entire clan on his shoulders. There's a glass in his hand, but he doesn't drink. He just looks down. I ask, "Do you ever turn your head off?" He answers without turning. If I turn it off, faces surface. Pause. Whose faces? I ask. He stays silent so long I regret it, and only then says, "The ones I didn't save in time, and the ones I saved too late." On the 18th night, everything breaks. Marcus bursts into the penthouse, quiet as a nightmare. "Boss, that wasn't a random shot. We were sold out. They knew the route." Joon-su's fingers clench until the knuckles go white. Steel enters his voice. "Who?" Marcus says. "Not sure yet. But they started a rumor you've lost focus." His eyes flick involuntarily to me. And I understand. Now I'm not just a guest. I'm a weakness marker someone decided to use against him. Joon-su brings the first aid kit himself. "Sit," he tells me, and for the first time I hear something in it that isn't an order, but a request disguised as one. He peels the wrap off his hand, revealing an old scar that doesn't look accidental. "Are you a medic?" he asks. I answer, "Dispatcher, but I've seen more blood than I ever wanted." He extends his hand as if he's testing me. Then help. And I realize something strange. He trusts me exactly as much as he needs to breathe. As I bandage his hand, he doesn't watch the wound. He watches me. A minute, 2. The silence gets louder. "You're not afraid of me," he says. I give a sad smile. I am, but I'm tired of living like fear is a religion. He nods like he knows that language. Then he adds, "The way you speak, you're not someone who just learned from a neighbor. Native speakers don't sound like that unless it's in their bones." I'll find the answer. The only question is, will you like it? The next day, I see a printout on his desk. My childhood looks like a hole in the records. School appears late. Medical files are minimal. Address changes look like someone carefully wiped tracks. I ask, "You dug through my life?" He answers calmly, "I dig through anything that can kill me." It's so honest it's hard to accuse him. But panic rises in me. If he digs deeper, he'll find what I try not to touch. The story of my father. My father was American, black, strict, and too quiet. He knew Korean better than my teachers knew English. He never explained why. He only said, "Language is a door. Don't open it for everyone." And I obeyed. But now the door is wide open, and Joon-su stands in the doorway with questions. He asks, "Your father, did he have connections?" I answer, "My father had principles." Joon-su smirks. In my world, principles are connections too, just more expensive. That evening, a message arrives on the internal phone. Unknown number, Korean text. "Return the girl, and we'll let you live." Joon-su reads it without blinking. Only his jaw turns to stone again. Marcus whispers, "That's the Park family, old blood. They want to hit you through her." I stand there and understand. I'm already being traded like property, even though I belong to no one. I say, "Let me go. I don't want to be your pressure point." Joon-su answers, "If I let you go, they'll take you within an hour, and there won't be negotiations." He offers a deal. "You stay here while I clean out the traitor. In return, you get safety, and the truth about that night on the line." I laugh. "Truth? In your world?" He doesn't get angry. "In my world, truth is rare. That's why it costs more. I'll pay with it." And I hate myself for seeing the logic, because if Joon-su's enemies see me as a weapon, on the street I'm defenseless. Here it's a cage, but a cage where at least they don't cut you up in the alley. We start talking at night. Not like enemies, but like people pulled toward the last strip of honesty. He tells me about Busan, the smell of the sea, a grandmother who swore so fiercely it sounded like prayer. I tell him about Chicago, neighborhoods where sirens are lullabies, and silence is a warning. And somewhere between those stories, a thought appears that scares me. We're more alike than we should be. He's the son of the criminal world. I'm the daughter of a man who ran from something just as dangerous. One day, Joon-su brings an old photograph. In it, a man who looks like my father stands beside a Korean man in military uniform. The Korean caption reads, "Kyung-soo, 2006. My spine turns to ice. "Where did you get that?" I choke out. Joon-su says, "From my archive. My father collected faces, especially the ones who could betray." I stare at the photo, fingers trembling. My father looks younger, but the eyes are the same, careful, like he's always ready to vanish. "Your father was close to my father," Joon-su says. "That's not an accident." I try to hold myself together. It could have been a random job, construction, translation. He shakes his head. No, he stands too confident for a random man, and too separate for an obedient one. Silence turns into a knife again. A memory opens in me. My father speaking Korean in our kitchen at night, quiet like someone was listening. Back then I thought he just missed Korea. Now I understand. He was hiding. I demand, "Say it plain. What do you want?" Joon-su answers, "I want to know if your father was the one who once saved my life, and then disappeared." I blink. "Saved?" He nods like he can still feel the pain. "I was 17. An ambush. I should have died. And one man dragged me out of the fire, swearing in that same street Busan accent. A black man. He said, 'Don't die, boy. Your life will still be needed by someone.'" My breath shakes. It sounds like my father. I say, "If it was him, you owe him gratitude, not an interrogation." Joon-su replies, "In my world, gratitude often smells like suspicion, because people save you either out of mercy or for a future debt. Anger flares. My father didn't collect debts. Joon-su stares straight at me. Then why did he disappear so carefully? I can't answer because I don't know. But somewhere deep inside, I understand. My father didn't disappear out of poverty. He disappeared out of war. That night, the penthouse isn't attacked with a raid, but with fear. The power cuts for 10 seconds, just long enough for the heart to do one extra lap. Then the emergency lights come on, and Marcus is already at the door with a gun. Sniper on the neighboring roof. They're testing security. Joon-su doesn't lose composure, but his movements become brutally efficient, everything unnecessary sliced away. He tells me, "Inside, no arguments." For the first time, I obey without anger, because I hear something Chijoy rustling in the vent. We end up in a safe room behind the library. Heavy walls, water zapas, a monitor with security feeds. On the screens, roof, corridors, elevators. I see a shadow moving too confidently. Joon-su whispers in Korean, "Not the Parks. Someone from inside. They know the layout." And I understand. The most frightening enemy is the one who used to hold the door for you. Joon-su's hand shakes. Not with fear, but with rage. He's being betrayed at home. An hour later, it ends without gunfire, but with a new reality. Marcus detains a guard, and the man confesses he was bought. Not with money, with threats to his family. Joon-su looks at him for a long time, like he's staring at a human weapon. Then he says quietly, "Take him out. Let him live. But never near me again." I'm shocked. He could have killed him. He chooses exile. That's not a choice monsters on schedule make. That's a choice made by someone tired of blood, but still capable of being terrifying. Afterward, Joon-su comes to my room not like an owner, but like a man hollowed out. "Do you still want to leave?" he asks. I answer honestly, "I want to go home, but I don't have a home." And suddenly, I realize it's true. Home isn't an address. It's the place where you're not torn apart for someone else's war. Joon-su sits on the edge of a chair and says, "If you stay, it won't be a cage anymore. It'll be an alliance." I smile bitterly. An alliance with the Mafia? He looks straight at me. An alliance with a man who's ready to burn his empire down if it's built on the wrong things. I ask, "What do you consider the wrong things?" And for the first time, I see hatred in him, not for enemies, but for the past. Human trafficking, disappearances, children, women, anything that turns a person into a product. He says each word like a nail hammered into his own memory. "It wasn't us," he adds, and I hear pain inside that us. "It was my uncle using fronts." I looked away because it was convenient to believe I controlled the chaos. He inhales. "And you, by accident, became my mirror." I say, "If you really want to fix it, you need proof, not words. The law loves paper and records." Joon-su looks at me like an idea that could save him, or kill him. "You're a 911 dispatcher," he says. "You know the system. You know what fear sounds like on a phone line." I nod. And I know fear is the best witness, if you protect it the right way. For the first time, we aren't talking about cages or feelings. We're talking strategy. My Mozg feels strangely alive, like I'm back at work, except the stakes are life. He shows me a safe. Inside are flash drives, printouts, names. "This is what I collected against others," he says. "But if I start a war against my uncle, I need a strike that can't be hidden." I suggest the path he hates: exposure, media, federal investigators, witnesses. "You seriously want to drag this into the light?" he asks. I answer, "You built your empire in the dark. That means you understand the light is the most terrifying weapon." He stays quiet because it's true. That same day, I find something that breaks me. Old audio on one of the drives. The Busan accent. My father's words. He says to someone, "Leave the boy. He's not guilty of adult sins." My breath cuts off. Joon-su stands beside me and understands without explanation. That's him. He exhales. I don't cry. I'm rage. Because my father was close to their world. Because he saved Joon-su. Because he left and took the truth with him, leaving me to live among the wreckage. I demand, "Tell me what happened to my father." Joon-su drops his gaze, and that's the worst sign. "I didn't kill him," he says, "but my uncle could have." The room turns colder. I clench my hands until my nails cut skin. "So you're saying I'm here because of your family's garbage?" He answers unexpectedly softly. "You're here because I don't want you killed for the crime of existing, and because you're the only one who can help me stop my uncle without turning this into one more slaughter." That night, I can't sleep, and I go to the kitchen. Joon-su is there without guards, in a t-shirt, like he's trying to remember normal life. He pours me water, and that gesture is louder than any apology. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," he says. "I'm asking you to choose, disappear or strike." I look into his eyes. Inside me, there are two Mayas. One wants to run, like always. The other is tired of running from ghosts and wants to turn and face them. I choose the second, even though it's more frightening. We make a plan. We drag his uncle into the daylight, his network, his people in port administration, his doctors who close injuries, his lawyers who rewrite destinies. I use access to call systems to pull recordings where victims called and were accidentally not heard. Joon-su uses money and contacts to extract witnesses alive. Marcus handles security. Everyone understands. If we miss, we'll be erased. But if we hit, Chicago will tremble. The first blow comes fast. My old house in the neighborhood where I grew up gets set on fire. No one dies because I haven't lived there for years, but the message is perfectly clear. We remember you. We'll reach everything you love. I stand by the penthouse window staring at smoke in the distance, and I want to scream. Joon-su comes up and says quietly, "They thought you'd be scared." I answer, "They confused fear with weakness." And for the first time, I see respect in his eyes without control mixed into it. Not mine. Equal. We meet secretly with a federal agent Joon-su once bribed and now has to convince. The irony, a mafia boss trying to be honest with the law. In a garage under the hum of ventilation, I lay out call recordings, and Joon-su lays out documents and routes. The agent looks at me and asks, "Why are you doing this?" I answer, "Because my father tried once, and he's gone now." Joon-su adds, "Because I'm tired of being an extension of someone else's sin." The agent stays silent for a long time, then takes the folder. After the meeting, Joon-su doesn't take me home. He takes me to a small Korean diner on the edge of town, late at night when it's empty. The owner looks at him like he's both her trouble and her pride. She brings soup and, seeing me, asks no extra questions. Joon-su says almost in a whisper, "This place raised me when my family was a monster." I understand he has cracks where a human being leaks through. And those cracks are dangerous, because it's easy to fall into them with your heart. On the drive back, I ask, "Who am I to you?" He hesitates, then answers honestly. At first, a risk, then a key. Now, I don't know how to name it without sounding weak. I laugh. Call it the truth. He stares at the road and says, "The truth is, when you speak Korean, I hear home, and when you're silent, I hear my sins." It's not a love confession. It's worse. It's a confession of dependence on light he barely has. The story surges when we learn that Uncle is moving another group of people through the port. Joon-su wants to hit with force, but I convince him, if we go head-on, they'll hide the traces. We need a show with cameras. We leak to the press, stir the public, make port security nervous. On the night of the operation, I'm in headphones again, hearing breathing again. Only now, it isn't one call. It's dozens. And among them is a girl's voice whispering, "Please, I don't want to disappear." My vision blurs. The feds arrive exactly on time because now they have paper, evidence, and public attention. The uncle gets arrested not on rumors, but on a chain of facts. But his people try to break through. Chaos erupts. Sirens, floodlights, running feet. Joon-su shields me, and I see how he moves. Not like a movie hero, but like someone who survived many times. He yells, "Don't look back." I don't listen, and I see a woman in a cage on a truck reaching her hand toward me. And I understand what this nightmare is for. After the raid, the city exhales like it took a punch, but the war doesn't end with an arrest. What's left of the network starts hunting us. Joon-su moves me to a more hidden place. I snap, "You're deciding for me again." He answers, "If you die, the whole truth dies with you." And it lands like a confession. I'm not just a symbol. I matter. I hate that I like hearing it. Because in this world, anything pleasant is paid for in blood. I find a letter in his safe, written long ago, before me. It has a Korean line. "If you ever want to become someone else, start with the person you're afraid to lose." I read it and my throat tightens. Joon-su walks in and sees the letter in my hands. He doesn't snatch it or get angry. He just says quietly, "My grandmother wrote that. She hated what my father became, and she was afraid I'd become the same." I look at him and realize for the first time, he was a child too. His childhood was just armed. On the climax night, the uncle tries to strike back. His people send a killer to our place. Marcus notices too late. I hear a thud like a udar in the wall, and everything inside me turns to ice. Joon-su grabs a weapon, but I stop him. "No, we don't feed the revenge cycle." He stares like I'm saying nonsense. I hold his eyes and reframe it. We catch them, we record it, we turn them in. Let the system do what it's supposed to do. He exhales, and I can see it hurts him to refuse the Pravichny solution, but he does it. For choice. For us. They catch the killer. On the recording. Names. The worst truth surfaces. The order on my father came from the uncle, too. My vision darkens like someone turned off the light inside me. Joon-su doesn't say sorry. It would be too easy a word for this kind of guilt. He just sits beside me and lets me rage, cry, go silent. I ask, "Tell me this isn't all for nothing." He answers, "If it's for nothing, then we're both already dead. But we're alive. So we'll make something dostoyne out of being alive." The final strike is public. Court. Journalists. Witnesses' faces that no longer hide. Joon-su takes the stand not as a boss, but as a man who voluntarily hands part of his world over to be dismantled. He speaks calmly in English, brutally in Korean, and the room goes silent. He admits where he looked away. He gives up names. He breaks his old power to build something new, without fear. I watch him and understand. The most dangerous act in the Mafia is to become honest. After court, we return to the empty penthouse. It doesn't feel like a palace anymore, because a palace without secrets is just walls. Joon-su sets keys on the table and says, "You're free." Panic rises in my chest. I dreamed of freedom, but now freedom means leaving the man I survived hell with. I ask, "Do you want me to go?" He answers, "I want you to choose, not because you must, because you can." And for the first time in years, I have a real choice that isn't coded in fear. I choose to stay, but not with him, beside him. I say, if I leave, my father remains just a victim. If I stay, he becomes the cause of change. Joon-su looks at me a long moment and says quietly, "You're scarier than all my enemies." I smile. That's because I'm not for sale to fear. He steps closer, and the air between us thickens like before a storm. He doesn't ask for love. He asks for a chance to be a human being. And against my will, I realize I want to give it. Not from weakness, but from strength. Our relationship doesn't turn into a fairy tale. It becomes work. We create a fund for people pulled out of the network, finance witness protection, build a support center in the neighborhood where I used to be invisible. Joon-su loses some of his people because not everyone agrees to live differently. I lose the illusion that justice is clean, but we gain something else, the ability to look in the mirror and not turn away. Some nights we still stand by the window. Chicago flickers below like the city doesn't know its blood was just changed. Joon-su says, "I'm not sure I deserved a second life." I answer, "Deserve is a bad word. Life doesn't hand out diplomas. It hands out chances. The question is, what you'll do with it." And when I say it, I hear my father's voice inside mine. Revenge cycles aren't broken by heroes. They're broken by the stubborn. And I realize we're both stubborn. A few weeks later, my old 911 number calls. Coworkers say I can come back. I stare at the phone and feel a strange longing for ordinary life. But ordinary life is impossible luxury now. I tell them, I won't come back. Not yet. Then I look at Joon-su and add, but I can teach others how to hear fear in a voice and not ignore it. I don't know what I've become. A dispatcher without a desk, a woman in a war, a person who stopped being background. One day I find a small box on the table, not a ring. A pin engraved in 2 languages, choice. Joon-su says, "I'm not going to promise you forever. I can only promise that tomorrow I'll choose again not to be a monster." I answer, "Then I promise that tomorrow I'll choose again not to run." It sounds simple, but for people like us, not running is a victory. And we laugh, quietly, like laughter is something you have to relearn. The strangest moment comes when I realize I no longer live inside someone else's fear. When a car door slams outside, I still flinch. Then I breathe and come back. When I hear Korean, I don't hide the language inside me anymore. I take it and use it as a bridge, not a burn. Joon-su says, "You brought my home back." I answer, "I'm not bringing it back. I'm building a new one. And if you want to live in it, you'll have to build too. Every day." There are no fireworks at the end of this story. There's morning. Ordinary, gray, Chicago morning. The kitchen smells of coffee, not blood. The table holds the funds folders and task lists, not weapons. Joon-su walks out in a simple shirt, and for a second he looks like a man you could meet in an elevator and not be afraid. Then he smiles, and I realize the most viral thing about our story isn't even the Mafia or the danger. It's how easy it would have been for him to stay a monster, and how hard he chose to become something else. But the city doesn't fully release us. A letter arrives with no return address. "You betrayed blood." Joon-su crushes it and throws it away. I ask, "Are you scared?" He answers, "Always. But before, fear controlled me. Now I control fear." And I understand the difference between old Joon-su and new. Before, he built an empire to hide from pain. Now he builds a life so he won't pass that pain forward. It's growing up, just with a Mafia price tag. I think about my father more than before. Not as a mystery, but as a man who once did the impossible. Dragged a boy out of fire and then disappeared so I could live. Now his name surfaces officially in the case, and I watch people speak about him with respect for the first time. One day, Joon-su hangs a small plaque on the wall of the center. "For those who break the cycle." He doesn't say it's about my father, but we both know. And for the first time, I cry without hatred. In the final scene, I put on headphones again, but not in the dispatch room. Our center runs a hotline for runaways, and I take a call from a girl who's shaking and says they're going to move her. I answer in Korean and English. Calm her down. Build a route. Mobilize people. Joon-su stands nearby and doesn't interfere because he respects my process. He just holds the door open, like my father once held it for me. And I understand. Cycles really can be broken if you're not afraid of looking too brave. Joon-su looks at me the way he used to look at danger, now the way you look at an equal. And I look at him the way you used to look at a monster, now the way you look at a man who chose responsibility. Between us, there's still blood from the past, but beside it, there's something else. A future we wrote ourselves. It's not the romance of happily ever after. It's the romance of we stopped running. In our genre, that's almost a miracle. If someone filmed this video, there would be a lot of night Chicago, neon, and glass on screen. But the real hook wouldn't be the action. It would be the first Korean word I spoke into my 911 microphone, and how that language became not shackles, but a key. It would be that the Mafia man feared not his enemies most, but his own emptiness, and that a Black American woman stopped being invisible, not for fame, but to save. And here I am, standing at the 48th floor window while Chicago burns with lights as if nothing happened. Joon-su is beside me, and on the table lies paper with our plan, not for a night, but for a life. I remember his voice in my headset. Don't send the police. Back then it was about fear. Now I tell him quietly. I don't live by other people's rules anymore. He takes my hand, warm, stubborn. And I know the ending is still ahead. But for the first time in my life, I'm not running from the unknown. I'm walking into it.